Track 7. Mr. Brightside. It was past curfew on the night of the Q1 Crucible, and Jet was feeling more than just fine. The water had been running long enough to fog the mirror and blur the room. Inside Flyers fell. Jet sat outside the shower, legs spread on the floor, listening to his fellow Flyers rewatch highlights of their Q1 divisional win. He was happy a teammate had finished first, which was out of the ordinary for him, yet he was fine with it. Flyers always finish first, Jet thought to himself. He could hear them over the running water, but his eyes couldn't stop admiring the new orange light still glowing on his wrist. He couldn't remember the last time he'd seen it before, or if he ever had. It had been a steady red for as long as he could remember. It was nice. Second place. It sounded cleaner than it felt. There was a long race ahead, and he couldn't have asked for a better start. It wasn't about winning. Not yet. For now, it was about not falling behind the pack. And for once, maybe that would be enough. He stared at the faint glow again. The digits still pulsed quickly on his wrist. He wondered what the full number might have looked like. He told himself if he ever, at least, showed in another crucible leg, this is what he'd spend the credits on this time. He never even saw the credits come in. He set the automatic transaction up long ago. His unit would be properly fed by now. His father would notice the glow. His mother would sing about it at the curator's chorus. He thought about Bianca smiling, the same smile as her mom. He hoped he had made that happen for them. He smiled at the thought. He rubbed his thumb over the band. The screen felt warm to the touch. He kept wondering about the numbers, hoping they'd magically even out. His skin had hardened with salt from his sweat, metals of the race that wouldn't wash off until he did it himself. His shoes were next to him on the tile, still wet at the edges from the crucible, almost unwearable at this point. He'd have to choose a new pair or a little fun tonight. He knew which one he had to pick. BG's voice came back, teasing. Can you at least tell me there will be some left over to have some fun tonight? He didn't want to let him down. He'd figure something out, hopefully. The mirror dripped clear enough to catch his reflection. He barely recognized the face staring back, confident and proud. He looked steady for once, but he didn't exactly feel it. He unhooked the band from his wrist, set it beside him, and reached in to test the water. Hot enough. He let the sound and steam fill the shower stalls for a while. He stood, stripped, looked at himself in the mirror again, and then stepped inside. The water hit him hard enough to sting, but it was the right kind of pain. Tonight, he was going to try not letting anything get in the way of a good time. Not even himself. He wrapped a towel around his neck and stepped into the hallway, inhaling. All right, he muttered to himself. Wanderer's wail. Just do it. He slapped the towel against the wall like a drumbeat to hype himself up. He danced down the corridor, exchanging head nods with other Flyers. Many were getting ready to go out as well. Others were staying in and enjoying the comforts of Flyers Fell. But one was already asleep, getting his rest for the stables tomorrow. Jet's roommate. Jet forgot he went to bed earlier than most. He almost woke him up when he swung open the door to enter their room. They had been roommates for a while now. They became contributors at the same time, but didn't run with the same crews. Surprisingly enough, he was always hanging around a group of drafters. Not a bad thing, just different. Jet didn't even notice him before the crucible started, and wasn't worrying too much about him after either. Jet got dressed as quietly as possible, throwing on his most colorful alternate flyers kit for a night at Wanderer's Whale. As he got ready, he thought about his friends. He never knew what Daly did outside of hanging with the rest of their crew. He knew he liked looking at the clouds, and he was always just around. He was a true wanderer, and there was no way his other friend Luke would be coming out tonight. He would either be pondering the light of the fray or trying to become the next Mamba. Either way, he stopped trying to get him to step a toe out of protocol a long time ago. I guess it was the drafter in him. He didn't have to prove anything, though Jet was one to talk. Jet left the room more stealthily than he had entered. He walked towards the girl's wing and paused by Juliet's empty frame like an idiot, pretending he was just checking on the hinges of a door that didn't exist. Then looked inside. Shit, not here? He muttered, frustrated, then shook himself out of it with a grin and walked towards their break room. Then he thought, BG will be here soon. It hadn't been 2 seconds since the thought came to his mind when a few pounds knocked at the front door of Flyers Fell. Jet saw him through the eye hole. BG stood there in his alternate kit, leaning against the wall, grin bright as a flare. Jet was calm for a moment. Then he noticed who was with him, a trio of what looked like red-lit wanderers standing behind him, just not in their traditional indigo and violet. Jet inhaled deeply, then exhaled slowly, then opened the door with a smile on his face. BG smirked. You ready? Jet had been deflated a bit and wasn't sure he even wanted to go. He just hoped he'd run into some roughies he knew while out with BG, because he had a tendency to go missing for periods of time on nights like these. And when BG hung with this wanderer crew, he started to not mind towing the line of breaking protocol. It would take a lot for Jet to keep up with them the curator's way. Even though he was his best friend, you never knew what type of trouble you could get into with someone like BG, he thought to himself. But, in his mind, no one else wanted to go out. So here he was. BG was his wild card. He wanted to go out. He wanted it more than anything. But he was nervous where the night could go. All I gotta do is not drink the ale or smoke the elderflower, and I won't get in trouble. It's okay if I'm just around it. So, a little fun was worth a short lecture. His dad seemed better when he left the route anyway. Jet breathed quickly this time. All right, let's go, he said, trying not to sound more uncertain than he felt. Like bragging about not being excited made him even more excited inside. Yes, sir, BG said, grabbing his wrist and tugging him forward. Let's go. It's mischief night. Jet let himself be dragged, at first reluctantly, then slowly, too slowly. The corridors pulsed with distant sounds. His steps matched the beats without meaning to, and by the time they reached the walkway toward the lower wing, Jet felt something like excitement flicker in his chest thanks to BG. His ranger, where fear went to die. Meanwhile, in Drafter's Drift, steam pooled along the edge of the bath, folding itself against the tiles. Joel let the last of the water drain before standing. The heat loosened him up more than he expected. The stem between his fingers became lighter. Victory did that. It made everything feel weightless, even him. The full back wind had bought him solace for the night, the kind of peace only victory could. He wasn't going to waste it. In his eyes, credits won felt much sweeter than credits earned. He dried off, put on a clean drafter's shirt, then brushed a thumb over the orange light sitting on the sink. The mist had turned it pink for a second, like it wanted to remember. He fastened his wristband. The digits shimmered, faint and alive with his newfound credits. Plenty to have a night worth remembering, but also plenty to finally work his way up. He stepped into the break room of Drafter's Drift. The air smelled of stone and full rations with the sound of a director's announcement Joel caught the tail end of. Must be another green light getting an award for perfect attendance at the stables, Joel thought to himself. The child on TV looked scared. He continued in his head. The other drafters were already talking about where to go after their speeches, the way they always did, voices soft and smug like they owned the night. He was fine taking a victory lap alone. He passed them without slowing down, towards a service hall. They called it the alley. It ran quiet around a corner that only roughies would use to hang out. It was near a sealed ledger hatch, in case a worthy wager needed to be placed. That's when he heard it, an unfamiliar sound in the alley. A voice that was low, sharp, and smooth, the kind of confidence you inherited. A red-lit drafter, the same age as Joel, stood against the wall facing the confident voice that was in between two other children. His hands were up, jaw tight, eyes set straight ahead. The voice came from a green light in a gray suit, lined in gold trim, in the middle of two flyers whose wrists' lights were flickering between red and black. The one in the middle smiled after seeing Joel in his peripheral, all teeth, like he was happy it wasn't a red light walking down the hall. Tell me, what's it feel like needing someone to pull you out of the dirt today? Bet you loved the attention. The voice was screaming at the red-lit drafter trying to defend himself. The red light didn't answer. What are you gonna do? I dare you to say something. This is your fault. The boy stumbled, trying to shove one of them back, and the flickers ganged up on him. Hey, what are you doing? Joel asked with urgency. Everyone froze, except Joel. But then he recognized the green light giving orders. Hey, didn't I just see you getting some award or something? Yeah. You were on TV during the director's announcement. What are you doing here? Joel asked, confused. The green light looked relieved. Yeah. So you're gonna do something then? The green light shot back, making sure his pendant was showing. Are you gonna submit a complaint, orange light? Yeah, why don't report me to HR, earn that green light, see what happens. That's what you want, isn't it? He continued as if it was a dare. Joel waited a second. Then his eyes lit up. This wasn't some green light. Wait, you're the apprentice. The green light smiled. But Joel was still confused. You've been the apprentice for what? A day? You can't be serious? Joel asked, concerned. And what if I am? This degenerate made me slip in the crucible. Do you know what that means? The apprentice responded, challenging Joel again. Something about the apprentice seemed off, thought Joel. Like he looked like someone who couldn't remember which version of himself he was supposed to be. He also wondered what he was doing with a couple of flickering lights too, so he added it to the equation he was already trying to solve. Joel was running all the odds of potential outcomes in his head. First, He thought of why the apprentice would be doing this. He said he made him stumble in the crucible. They train in the stables all year for the crucible. He understood snapping on him, but going this far seemed extreme. He thought about simply walking away for this. This wasn't his problem, but what about the defending red light? Just because he was an orange light now doesn't mean he could forget where he came from. He also thought about what it would mean to turn the apprentice in. Would they really reward him for it? Former red lights never rat anyone out unless it directly affected them or their unit. And again, this was not his problem. Lastly, he thought about joining the fight. He couldn't remember the last time he'd even been in a scrap. It would also be 2 to 4. Not great odds to win, let alone taking on the consequences of that decision with the house. A fight always leads to a greater chance of future confrontations as well. They'd also never believe him or the red-lit boy over the apprentice if it came down to it anyway. They'd probably find a way to pin breaking the entire curator's code on a rising unit anyway. And there was almost no way out of that. This was the green-lit apprentice of Eden standing in front of him after all. "Just do it. Tell on me," shouted the apprentice. He then realized there was only one solution to this problem. "You know what? No," Joel said. But he took a look at the defending red light and then to the apprentice who led this blood-lit pack of flickers. Joel then flashed his wrist and the numbers from his fullback win glowed in front of them. The attacker's eyes widened. The apprentice might have found another way. One of the flicker's eyes lit up the most. "Where'd you get all those credits?" the one said. "Are you the one who won the fullback today?" the other asked. "Why? You want to make a wager?" Joel responded. Joel figured there was no other way of getting out of this. "Look, you are still roughies. What are you doing?" "So, instead of beating up your own, why don't you take a chance at some credits that I know the apprentice wasn't actually going to just give you?" They both nodded, and their shoulders dropped. His eyes shifted to the apprentice. Taking credits from someone always has its cost, as does giving credits. He thought of his brother. Then his eyes shifted back to the apprentice again. Joel wondered what the real reason was for why he was getting red lights to attack one another. But that answer had to wait for another day. Joel then continued, "And let's be honest, I'm not willing to just give you credits either. Just throwing credits at a problem never fixed anything anyway." "But," the flicker's eyes perked up again, "I can at least provide you an opportunity. Like how I was given one today. See, I won these credits with my fullback win today. I knew I made the house blink, but what was I supposed to do with all them? I can only eat so much. So when they say, save the credits you finally are able to attain, don't just throw them away. Use them on something worth the squeeze." I listened. The apprentice grinned. Then their eyes moved quickly back to Joel's light, like they were waking up for the first time. Joel stepped closer to the three and they said, "But we don't have enough credits." "But he does," Joel said, easily. He gestured toward the apprentice. "So back off and let the apprentice fight him." Then gestured at the red-lit drafter. The apprentice turned and caught Joel looking at his pendant. "Excuse me?" the apprentice asked Joel. "You versus my friend here. One-on-one. A fair fight." Joel motioned toward the apprentice. And the best thing about it? This isn't the crucible. So you can back yourself. And since both of your friends here aren't exactly cut from the same cloth as you, he turned to the two boys. You two are going to convince the TV star to fight this kid, back himself, and fight him fair. The hall went still, but the hum from the hatch seemed to fade. The flickers' mouths started to water. Then the apprentice looked at the ledger's hatch and waited for an entrance. Well, he's not showing up, the apprentice said. Joel's mouth tightened. You know the code. If he doesn't show, then there's no back to make, the apprentice said quickly. Joel looked at the hatch as well. Nothing, then looked back at the apprentice. You look scared, Joel said evenly. The same look you had on TV. Everyone looked at the apprentice to see if he would respond to such a remark. The hall was so quiet, you could hear the rustle of the apprentice's pendant dangling from his neck. Fight him? One of the flickers wasn't exactly giving him a choice. The grin on Apprentice's face faltered just enough to be noticed. He looked at Joel, then around the room, then back to Joel again. It needs to be worth the ledger's walk. You know this. Like he was pleading to him now. Joel knew the standoff was coming to an end. Okay then, Shadow. We don't want Frey knowing you have fear in your heart. I want a full back next time. The apprentice blinked. Joel's confidence had grown exponentially since his win. The apprentice huffed, but his ears perked up as he walked off. The silence left behind was heavier than the noise. Can I go home now? Joel asked. The flickers looked at their wrists and felt a pit in their stomach. Then they looked at Joel. Can't say I didn't try, Joel exclaimed. We will be looking forward to our next opportunity, one of them said to Joel. Till next time, Joel said in response. Then they walked off to fight another day, looking forward to next time. And Joel exhaled. The defending drafters scoffed. I could have taken them if it wasn't a bunch of them at once. And I know I could have taken that kid one-on-one too. He shook his confident muscles out. I know, Joel said softly. That's why I would have backed you. He studied Joel. You called the apprentice Shadow. Joel's mouth tilted. Only shadows fight on even odds. A real leader puts their credits where their mouth is. That landed. It wasn't said to be a threat. More like the truth. The boy nodded once. So you really did win the fullback? Joel shrugged. Yeah. He grinned, the kind that cracked the tension just enough. Cool. Hey, do you like to dance? Joel almost smiled. What do you mean? My name is David, but you can call me Avi. Number 102, you're going to be my special guest tonight. Oh, no, no. I'm not going out, replied Joel. It's mischief night at the Whale. Let's go. Avi tugged at his arm, bringing him along for the ride. Joel reluctantly went along with his new friend with what might have been a smile on his face. They started walking through the Drafters' Commons together, side by side, as equals. The corridors of the house still carried the afterpulse of the crucible, laughter echoing through the metal, a buzz in the vents that almost matched the beat spilling from the lower wing. Wanderer's wail was already alive. As they walked, Joel slowed, adjusted his collar. It's loud, he murmured. It's mischief night. Of course it's going to be loud, Avi said, pushing him forward. What's that sound I hear? Joel asked. Yeah, that's been in the works for a while. They must be warming up the booth for me. Joel looked at him confused. Hey, I'm just gonna head back. What are you talking about? It's gonna be fine. You could use some loosening up. Joel's mouth tightened. Suit yourself, but you could be missing out. Anything can happen on nights like tonight. Avi kept walking towards their destination. Joel looked back one last time but decided to follow anyway. Meanwhile, Jet, BG, and his crew of wanderers were coming from the other direction towards Wanderer's Whale. Jet was still rigid. Ahead of them, the door to the whale eased open, and two children stepped out, laughing low like they'd just shared a secret. One had an orange light, was built with thicker curves, and had a prosthetic leg. The other was narrower, the red light catching a feminine line of their face as they pushed their hair back. Jet's eyes caught the red light's eyes, then broke away as they passed them and walked to the back of the line. He turned the motion into words before the thought could linger. So who is all going to be there tonight? He muttered to BG while listening to the sounds coming from the whale. BG snorted. Some girls for sure. Just follow my lead. He forced a grin, knowing this was new territory for him. He shoulder bumped BG and walked with his steps to the beat ahead. As they reached the back of the line, one of the wanderers that were with them spoke up. This line is ridiculous. I'm not waiting in this. Yeah, let's head to the scene. Yeah, BG, why don't you come with us? I'd love to, but I was promised a good time tonight by number 13 here, so I'll catch you next time. Jet looked relieved, but down as he watched the wanderers walk away. He always enjoyed what came out of the scene, but actually experiencing it was something different entirely. BG didn't bother trying to sell them on staying. He would normally go with them, but he felt the urge to stay for some reason. After they left, Jet finally loosened up, his knees rocking back and forth, waiting in line. Then a voice behind Jet caught his moves. Are you dancing? An orange-lit drafter asked, quieter than he meant to. Jet closed his eyes, waiting to be ridiculed. Are you gonna start singing too? The boy continued as he walked up to him. Jet started to sweat. Then Jet spun around and noticed who it was. No way, Jet said, excited to see his brother. Too excited to notice the jabs that were just thrown his way. Joel blinked. He threw an arm around Joel and nearly dragged him down off balance. I never thought I'd see you out. Fuck yeah. Jet continued. No one's hiding tonight. BG grinned. Avi laughed as Jet swept him along too. Let's go. Let's have some fun tonight, Jet said, becoming lighter and lighter in Joel's presence. Joel put his arm around his brother and smiled as well. The sounds continued to swell. Wanderer's Wail was a vibe, alive with color and heat spilling out through the door. Voices spilled through the vents, half songs, half shouts. Someone inside was already chanting over the beat. Jet checked the rhythm with his hand. Now this is it. He moved to the beat forward and inched closer to the door with a flourish. Joel hung back out of habit, not fear, letting the noise hit him in soft waves. For once, it didn't feel overwhelming, just still too loud, and maybe even a little exciting. Beside them, Avi broke from the line, beaming. This is going to be awesome. Your brother's the reason I'm even standing here, you know? Jet blinked. What do you mean? Avi rattled off the story. Jet's pride rose. BG whistled. So you're the kid that BG had to save in the crucible today? Jet asked, concerned. Yeah, that's me. Avi waited to be made fun of. Are you okay? Jet asked with a hand on Avi's shoulder. Oh, yeah, um, yeah, I am. Thanks for asking, Avi replied. Good man. Thanks for bringing my brother out tonight. This is really cool, Jet said back through the noise. No problem, Avi beamed. Hey, I want to bring you guys up to the decks. We don't have to wait in line. Let's go. Follow me, Avi exclaimed. Jet, Joel, and BG all looked at each other confused, then followed Avi to the front of the line. Jet looked again at his brother, with hope in his eyes, wondering if he was thinking. Joel looked back at Jet and smiled. For the first time in a long time, both brothers felt the same thing at the same time. Maybe tonight would actually be the start of something new. Avi entered the whale ahead of the group through the main entrance, and someone else walked back through towards them. It was a child. He stumbled out into the corridor, laughter spilling with him, the kind that could have been half real, half delusion. It was the apprentice, shirt unbuttoned just enough to show his pendant. He was alone. The air shifted. It looked like he had a little too much of the Wanderer's ale in a short amount of time. Children who drank that fast were either celebrating or trying to drown something. No one could tell which, though. But his smile sharpened when he saw Joel, like he was excited for a rematch. Well, look who it is. So I guess you did report me. Just wasn't to HR. Joel's face hardened instantly. What are you talking about? Oh, come on, the apprentice said, stepping forward. You gonna let someone else fight your battles now? After giving a whole speech about how I shouldn't do it? I don't know what you're talking about, said Joel. Why don't we find something that the ledger would actually show up to this time? Asked the apprentice. BG took half a step closer before anyone else could. What did you just say? BG asked excitedly. The apprentice raised an eyebrow. Joel's jaw flexed. I don't need anyone to fight for me. Jet looked at his brother sideways. Why are you getting into it with the apprentice? What did you do? Joel ignored him, stared forward. BG smiled and rolled his shoulders, the space suddenly feeling smaller. Yup, he said, deep and calm. This is it. Stepping towards the apprentice. The apprentice raised his hands, peaceful. Having a larger-than-life ranger as a best friend was helpful for times like these. Okay, that's not necessary. Let's settle this in private. Like I said, where's the ledger? Said the apprentice. BG's eyes glazed over. Jet knew that look. Oh, it'll get settled. Just not imperviate, BG said, like he had been waiting for this moment his whole life. Oh? The apprentice asked, confused. No, nothing. Don't listen to him, Jet said loudly to the apprentice, eyes wide. The apprentice's eyes didn't match his confusion. One looked thrilled, the other unsure. A half-gone crowd started to gather now. BG stepped back, voice dropping low. Joel started to grin as well. Jet sighed. Of course you wouldn't know, BG said, laughing. The red lights in the crowd joined in. What do you like to call us? He towered over the apprentice. Degenerates, right? The crowd booed. Well, only a degenerate would know what it takes to bring the ledger out for his walk. The crowd started to wake up more. So, why don't we take this outside then? Asked BG. Oh no, said Jet. The crowd continued to build. One child's voice was able to pierce through the crowd. Outside! Another shook their head in disbelief. Outside? You know what that means? BG smiled and settled the crowd, nodding at the two. BG let the crowd's anticipation eat them alive, then gestured toward the ranger's corridor. To ranger's reach. The crowd turned into a mob. The whale's sounds throbbed through the walls, muffled now, distant. BG's gravity had pulled them all in. BG smirked at the brothers and turned to everyone around him. The brothers' eyebrows lifted at one another, though their mouths went in opposite ways. The wild card had arrived. He hadn't given anyone a chance to make a choice. He saw the opportunity to make a spectacle and took it. Jet tried to reach out to BG to stop him before something bad happened. Joel pulled him back. Stop. Just watch him work his magic, he said to his older brother. BG raised his hands, one last time like he was finishing casting a spell on the mob. Are you ready to be entertained? He voiced loud and clear for all to hear. Jet looked at his brother with concern, and the mob erupted around them, like destiny was calling.